Have you ever looked at a photo of yourself smiling and was immediately reminded of that moment in time? The pain, the past, the pressure you endured? It's been said a photo holds 1,000 words, but can we fearlessly tell the truth and courageously open our heart vault of vulnerability to share those words? I'm your host, Takiya. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the podcast that shares the truth a picture holds and reveals the stories untold. I'm your host, Takiya, and I invite you to this episode to take a deeper peek behind this smile. All right, a few things that I want to check some boxes on before I jump deep into this episode. This is, I believe we're at episode number 5. Kudos to me. And as I'm recording these episodes, and even before I go back to listen, I said I feel every time like this weight coming off my chest. The past week, I'll tell you, my stomach has just been in knots. Probably a lot to do with this. There's a lot going on as I close out the year. Today, as I'm recording in studio, it is actually the last day of the year. It's December 31st, 2023. So this is huge. This is a huge pivotal moment with what I'm transitioning from and what I'm walking into, and I'm closing out the year. It's a significant mile marker that closes out a chapter and allows another one to open. So many good things going on here, but internalizing it all. Like I've been walking around like feeling good and smiling and laughing. But I told a friend the other day, I said, I think it's just stress. You know, we know stress can still silently kind of chip away at you. And I'm doing everything that I need to stay on top of it. But after each recording of every episode, I just feel like this layer of burden lifted, and it's just so therapeutic and it's just so good for me. So if you have hung in for this long, thank you so much. And I appreciate it. That you want to sit in on my therapy sessions. This is really, as I was listening to some edits on the other ones, I was like, this is just a way for me to have therapy. And I'm truly inviting people into my therapy session. So welcome. Sit on the couch with me. And let's just heal together. So I said I want to check the boxes. As I was watching the last episode, sometimes when I talk, I feel like I'm just rambling, and I probably am right now, and I probably will until I get to the hang and the feel of this and actually truly find my voice also, because I'm feeling a little conflicted because I'm used to wearing so many hats as an entrepreneur and as a writer and as a speaker and as a mentor and in business and as a public figure. And this right here, I'm realizing this is a lot more intimate than any of those things. This is for me. This is for Takiya. This is my voice sharing, speaking, revealing, telling my story. And I get to do it in my own voice, not as the boss, not as a mentor, not as a speaker. Like, it's just none of those hats. It's me stripped down in the sanctity and safety and confines of my own home studio. And as I watch the videos, I'm like, oh, that sounds too like professional, or you're trying to be safe, or you're trying to, cater to customer service. And I'm like, just let all of that go. Just be who you are, girl, be who you are. And so as these episodes evolve, you'll notice a quick change of my level of comfort in getting on this microphone or getting in front of that camera, and just really letting Takiya speak. Because again, that's the whole purpose of this podcast, behind this smile. My smile, our smiles can be so indicative of how we feel, and they could also be so misleading of how we feel. And I am just really learning to just allow God to let me use this platform to strip away all of that, all of those titles, all of that facade, all of other people's expectations and fear of being rejected or not believed or not heard, and just go, you know what, this is for me. And in the process of doing this for me, I believe that there will be so many other voices that will be heard and so many other lives that will be touched and so many hearts that will be healed. So if it's good for me, I know it's good for you all. So that was the first box I wanted to check, is just say, stick with me as I find my voice here. The other thing I want to pick up on is where I touched on something on part 2 of Overcoming a Stalker, the last episode. I referenced that there was a dream that I had that God had actually given me. I talked about in episode 1 how God gives me visions and dreams. That's just a part of my gifting that He's blessed me with. And I dream. And I call them my God dreams. I know when it's just, you know what, you just were up binge watching TV and that's stuck in your psyche, your subconscious, or nope, this was 100% something from God and He wants you to do something with it. Pray about it, go talk to that person, whatever. But I had a God dream before the stalker was arrested. I actually saw it in a dream. And I knew that day would come. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but I knew it would come. So in part 2, I told the story of what happened about the stalker showing up in another state to my hotel room as a DoorDash delivery guy. And I made that report. And then the next day he showed up to a business property where I was contracted to do some business with. And he showed up there and the police were called and everything happened quickly and perfectly as it did in the dream. So let's talk about that dream. I had this dream. So outside of the dream, the arrest actually happened in May of 2023. And around March 30th was when the whole incident actually happened in real time. So between March 30th and May 17th, which was the day of arrest, somewhere a week or two before the arrest, I had this dream, my God dream. And in the dream, I remember it very, very vividly. I was in this park. It was like this really huge park, like just a lot of activity was going on. There were hundreds of people all over, just on the lawn playing, or dogs running around catching balls, and people picnicking. And it was just a beautiful day. And it was just a public park. And what I noticed significantly about this park were even though there were hundreds of people, there were just as many police officers. It was like for every 3 people, there were 3 police officers. So it was just hundreds of people, but the police officers were uniformed. So I was here in this park and I was standing behind this brick building, and I was peeking from behind the brick building, looking across the lawn at my vehicle. And my vehicle was parked. And behind my vehicle, well, sort of, it was in front of it, but at the rear of my vehicle, there's this public park bench. And sitting on the bench is the stalker. And he's sitting there and he's looking around, waiting and watching. He's waiting and watching, waiting and watching. You can tell he's just looking for me, because the significance is I knew it was for me because he was sitting right by my car. So I'm watching him. He doesn't know that I can see him looking for me. And I'm standing behind this brick building watching. But the significance is behind me, there's all these women. There's probably 10 to 15 women standing there. We're kind of like in hiding. Like we don't want to be seen by him. We don't want him to know that we see him. So we're all gathered behind this building, watching, peeking. And what we're doing is we're trying to get the police officers' attention. Now, the significance of this is, remember I said there was hundreds of police officers, but we are just having such a hard time with so many clothed, uniformed officers in plain sight, literally walking past us left and right. We just can't seem to get their attention and get them to stop and listen to us so that we can say, hey, this guy over there, he's dangerous. He's a stalker. He's been bothering her. We just can't get their attention. And it becomes frustrating. So then at one point, I decide a female officer walks by and I get her attention and she stops. And it's like, okay, finally, we have someone's attention. And she's very attentive to what we're saying. She's listening. She's taking it all in, and she looks over, and then what happens is she goes, okay, stay here. She goes over and you see her start to talk to him and ask him questions. What are you doing here? Why are you by this vehicle? Because, this vehicle belongs to an individual that you have a restraining order against and you should not come near. So we're watching all of this unfold. And as she's standing there talking to him, two male officers walk over. Now, it was difficult to get any of their attention. But I just remember in the dream that all of a sudden it was like this female officer materialized in the midst of all of these male officers. And she was the one who said, let me go check this out. And then when she did, her colleagues, they took it seriously and said, let's go back her up and see what's going on. So you have these two male officers and the female officers, and they're talking to him. And then all of a sudden you see them tell him, stand up, turn around, and they handcuff him and they arrest him. And so we're still behind this building. And I'm like, there's this sigh of relief from all of us. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is great. Oh gosh, they got him. They're taking this seriously. All of a sudden, one of the women in the group, she darts out from behind us, because we're like, no, let's not piss him off, or let's not make him feel like we set him up. Let the police do their job. Let's just stay out of sight. One of the women in the group takes off and she's angry. She is angry with him. Like, she wants to get at him, and she gets in his face and she's yelling. And we run out at that point because one of them has stepped out and exposed the fact that we were there. The rest of the women and myself come out and we're trying to stop her. We're going, no, just back up, let them handle it. But this woman, she just gets in his face and she is just pointing at him and she's screaming and she's yelling and there's tears streaming. And the police officers are finally like, just back up. We got it. And then I just remember in the dream feeling like frustrated with her. I still don't quite know what the representation of why I got frustrated with her. I wasn't angry. I wasn't mad at her, but I was just like, back up so that we don't interfere with what they're doing. Like, I was frustrated that she exposed the fact that we had did it. So I don't know, God will reveal that eventually to me. And even as I was revisiting and talking and walking through it, I had a little bit of revelation about what that was. But so I woke up from this dream and I remembered it so clearly and so vividly. And after I had that dream, I just continued to pray about it. And again, at this point, he had not been apprehended. So I held on to that dream, prayed about it. And I remember the night before his arrest, May 16th, I was in Tennessee. I had been going back between Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee. And I left Georgia from him because of him popping up and finding me in Georgia. So now I'm back in Tennessee. And I remember sitting on the couch at home that night, May 16th, and talking to God. And I remember I said to God, avenge me. Avenge me. I need you to take care of me, God. I want you to protect me and my family. I've done nothing to deserve this. even in the midst of the marriage in which things happened to me that I did nothing to deserve. I don't deserve this. I don't want to live like this. I don't want to put up with this. Render justice where justice is due. I want him locked up. I said that to God, May 16th, that night. May 17th, I get the call that they had him in custody. And that dream comes flooding back because the dream happened before the arrest happened. Other than the fact that I was not in a park and I wasn't surrounded by a bunch of women. But I wanted to share that because it just was so significant to my prayers, to my faith, to my peace and my sanity. And I just want to encourage anyone out there who is a believer and you do have a relationship with God and you're wondering where he's at, he's there. To those that may not know God, that don't have a relationship with him, he's there. I want to share the story behind my smile because in all episodes, in every chapter of my life in the book of Takiya, you're going to find that God has been my foundation. He's been my support and my sanity. Everything. Everything. So that's a box I want to check. I would be remiss if I did not give honor and reverence and circle back to me saying in part 2, hey, I had a dream. So even me being here now with this podcast, I'm obeying. I'm giving voice to what I've gone through, and God's going to do so much good with it. Now, I left off on the last episode I touched on briefly about the psychological impact and the damage, seen and unseen, that the effects of stalking leaves on its victims. And here behind this smile, I'll say it again and again, I can only share my experience, but I know even in my experience, which has been so traumatic, that my story, even the underlying blessing in it, probably does not touch on some of the other. It doesn't. I want to say probably not. It doesn't. Because there are people that have lost their lives to this. There are people that have lost their loved ones to this. But what I deal with has been something that I said to a couple of my close friends. I said, I'm a person that I do not like to not be in control. And my emotions and my feelings and the triggers and the trauma have been unbearable. Going through the process of this past year, anything that sounded like his voice, any vehicle that looks like his vehicle, the color of his vehicle, the way that someone walks or talks or memories are all triggers. Just talking about what I'd gone through would render me to the point of tears that I could barely finish my story. So even in that, I have to again give God glory because I'm sitting here in a studio and I'm talking about it. And I'm so grateful and so thankful that the healing, the evolution of my healing, it's working. But over the past year, points in my story that I would speak about, I would just shut down. I would burst into tears. I would go into panic attacks, the anxiety, fear, fear, fear of the unknown, fear of, I'll tell you, my biggest fear was not even necessarily me, but more so my family, my loved ones, because the way that many of these men and women that have psychological issues or obsessive tendencies, if they feel like they can't hurt you, then they'll hurt the closest thing to you. And that in itself did so much damage to me. The amount of, oh my gosh, we won't even we will get on. Even I've been divorced for a year and a half now. And even thinking about a future of love with anyone else because of this, there's no trust. Trust is out the door. I'll be totally 100% transparent and honest. Do I think I will ever trust another human being, let alone a man, again? Probably not. That's not me lacking faith in God that He can and will, if that's my desire, send me love again. Because I'm deserving of love. I know that. That's the one thing this has not taken from me. But will I ever be capable of trusting another man again? Right now, the answer is no. It takes a piece of you that you have a very difficult time getting back. Family, friends, manipulation that was caused by the stalker has damaged and impacted relationships that were meaningful to me. I've lost relationships. I've lost relationships with people because of the manipulation by the stalker, because of their lack of understanding what I was going through. And let's talk about that, because I in no way, shape, or form fault them. Now, my friend said this to me. She said, it doesn't matter if they were confused. If they love you and they trust you and they believe you and care about you, they should have been there. And I believe that. I believe that 100%. But I will also extend grace to the fact that this manipulator knew the tactics and what it took to get to those people. Because see, in my situation, I married this man. I married the stalker prior to the stalking. He didn't stalk me and I married him. After I met him and married him. And this is someone for me that I allowed into my life. I vouched for. And because people that love me and trust me and know that I am someone that holds themselves in high esteem, for me to invite this individual into our lives and into our circle, they accepted him like they accepted me. So when it came time that this is not working and he's doing all of these things, that door had been open. And because he'd been granted access, a lot of people didn't close the door when I closed the door. So I don't fault. I do not fault, but I want to just revisit that again, because I know that there are many of you out there that, you know, you've got friends and family and loved ones that they don't understand it. My My own son has been impacted by this so tremendously, because he's torn, because this is the man that I married. This was truly the first father figure that took the time to really be a part of his life. It's not his biological father, but this is someone that I trusted and let into our lives and our hearts and home. And so he did because mom did. And when things turned, and my son believes me, but there was a point in time that he didn't, because the stalker manipulated that father-son relationship. And it has taken and is still taking time to mend those wounds and to heal the hurt, because it's a process and there are so many others, so many more impacted than just me. I relate to that. I know that there are women and men, and I keep saying and men. I'm not just throwing a bone out there. I'm making sure that we understand that the impact of stalking does not affect just women. It is not just a woman-only crime. Men commit the crime of stalking. Women commit the crime of stalking. And there are men who are victims. I hope and pray they give voice and share their stories. I do. Because this is something that is, and I'm a new voice to this, giving my story, but I'm not the trailblazer. I'm not the one who, she's speaking up and she's speaking up. There are many before me. But I want to be another that comes alongside, that has a voice that speaks to a specific group, because everyone has their crowd and everyone has their person or their people that they can relate to. I want to relate to who I relate to here. And I want to bring about awareness, and I want to share my story, and I want to share my journey, and I want to share my healing, and I want to give my voice. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this. And I'm going to continue to do that and continue to bring about awareness. Thank you so much for hearing me on this episode. It's been a journey. It always will be. But again, thank you for listening to my story behind this smile. Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. Please help me to continue to spread the message of hope, encouragement, and inspiration by sharing my podcast with your friends, family, loved ones, and complete strangers. Someone needs to hear what has been said today. Like, follow, share, subscribe, and download on all platforms for Behind This Smile with Takiya LaShawn.